Over a decade ago, a very strange video emerged on the internet. It shows a recording of photographs taken in 1992 in Quebec, Canada. Those photographs depict what appear to be a short naked corpse of a gray alien. What is also mysterious is how little information exists on this case. And so, I did a deep dive. The footage itself is 1 minute and 21 seconds long. It was uploaded by the YouTube channel called Étrange Videos in 2008 and again in 2013, and also included detailed comments from the uploader, giving context on its origin and claiming to be the one who did the recording. In total, there are 10 photographs of the corpse, and 3 other pictures to provide context. The first one is a depiction of greys from an abduction account in a book, including the Charles Moody case from 1975. The second is a title screen saying Hiver 92, l'Annonciation, which translates to Winter 92, and l'Annonciation being a municipality in Quebec, Canada. The third picture is a map, with the location of the finding, Riviera Rouge. The last picture, curiously, is a drawing, or rather a petroglyph from Uzbekistan, showcasing what appears to be a luminous man. It was used by Erich von Däniken, specifically in his book Chariots of the Gods. Von Däniken is best known for his books on alien influence on early human civilization, more commonly known as the Ancient Alien Hypothesis, which is likely why it was included in the footage. The uploader, claiming to be the person who recorded this and uploaded it to YouTube, provided detailed context for where he or she got these photos from and their attempts at making them public. The uploader writes, "In the winter of 1992, while I was living in Montreal, a friend of my former roommate came to our apartment to show us some strange photos. These showed what appeared to be a creature of unknown origin, an extraterrestrial biological entity, or EBE, apparently lifeless, discovered by a snowmobiler, or perhaps two, in a field or wooded area not far from the road. This friend stated the photos were from his cousin and were taken in Riviera Rouge in l'Annonciation, Quebec, which is the circled place on the map. The snowmobiler, or one of them if there were more, retrieved a camera and began snapping photos. The other witnesses in the photographs arrived later by car. They then wrapped a cable or a rope under the arms of the corpse and used a branch to lift it up, hoping to avoid touching it. Strangely, they said they left the body out overnight, and when they returned the next day, it was gone, possibly taken by coyotes or other wildlife." This anonymous uploader then writes, "We then asked him what he planned to do with the photos. He told us he would try to contact someone in the field of ufology to try to solve the mystery. Before he left, I quickly grabbed my video camera and recorded the photos one by one. Later, this friend informed the uploader that he contacted Claude Macduff, an author in the field of ufology and one who had written a book called The Trial of the Flying Saucers, which was an investigative non-fiction approach to UFO sightings and encounters, focused primarily in Quebec, Canada, using compiled eyewitness testimonies and accounts from the early 1970s. However, Macduff informed this friend to not go public or attempt to make any money with the evidence because, as he saw it, it would almost guarantee being discredited and humiliated, possibly in a public way. In any case, we were very surprised by the former ufologist's conclusion. Not wanting to be taken for kooks or crackpots, we simply decided to keep it to ourselves, as a sort of secret. We showed the video privately to close friends with open minds, but not to the public. Like many witnesses of unexplained phenomena, I also feared that if I showed the video to the public, people would end up mocking us. And so the tape was kept as a secret between this friend group, and shown only occasionally to people who they trusted. However, this did change. Fast forward 17 years later to 2008. In October 2008, around 17 years after the photos came into my life, I finally decided to try my luck at solving the mystery. Lacking the equipment to convert the VHS of the EBE photos into a digital file, I had to film the VHS footage with my digital camera by recording it off the screen of my tube TV. I then uploaded the video online through the video sharing site YouTube. Thanks to this format, anyone can remain anonymous, and by avoiding judgment, share their stories or discoveries in peace. From there, the video was briefly picked up within ufology circles, but not to the degree that the uploader had initially hoped. They write, "To help witnesses come forward or encourage investigators to take an interest, I included the email address etrangevideos@yahoo.ca at the bottom of the video description on YouTube. Strangely, at first, only one Quebecois investigator came forward, a certain Mr. Morin from Avni, Quebec. He published the details of the case on his website, where I used the pseudonym Mr. R. In December 2008, a journalist from a local newspaper in Riviera Rouge wrote an article about the video. We stayed in touch by email, in case any witnesses pictured in the photos eventually came forward. In January 2009, I reached out to another investigator. However, he declined to investigate, mainly because the only proof I had was the VHS. In 2013, I received an email from a Mr. Garcia in Mexico who worked for a TV show called Tercer Milenio, or Third Millennium. He wanted a Skype interview, which I immediately declined due to my desire to remain anonymous. By January of 2016, the 2008 upload had amassed well over 400,000 views. That same month, a YouTuber named Newbeat2012 uploaded a detailed breakdown of the tape called Authentic Alien Grey EBE Footage Analyzed, Quebec, 1992, which was specifically mentioned by the uploader. I looked into Newbeat2012, and thanks to the Wayback Machine, I found that Newbeat did indeed exist, as did his video, which was also available. In the video, he explicitly talks about the anatomy of the being and how much detail it had, a bit more than what would have been expected from an amateur prop maker in 1992, especially for a hoax. In his video, Newbeat looks at 5 distinct areas: the neck, the legs, pectorals, arms, and torso, and shows that these areas have a great deal more of detail than what otherwise a simple hoax may require. Now, naturally, this is difficult to fully claim given the low quality of the original video, but you do seem to be able to make out distinct details of the neck, as he shows here, along with the shoulder area, and a clear view of the sternomastoid, more commonly recognized as the V-shaped muscles you see connecting from behind the ear down to your collarbone, and what may be a coracobrachialis, pectorals, and abdominals. But what I found most interesting was his analysis of the legs, which genuinely do seem to have a lot of muscle definition. When props of aliens are made, there is usually some basic musculature included, some of which would be the same areas that Newbeat2012 highlighted, but this one stood out the most. You can see what appears to be fairly recognizable muscles comparable to a human leg, and that begs the question, would a prop for a hoax in the early days of YouTube require this much detail? Here, he inverts a close-up of the body, and you can see what looks like, at first, wrapping, but I don't believe this is wrapping. I believe it's peeling, blistering outer skin. Schizo checkpoint ahead. A tinfoil hat is required beyond this point, because we're going in one level deeper. In 2023, an alleged whistleblower came forward on r/aliens discussing, in depth, the anatomy of gray alien corpses he studied on behalf of the US government. It became rather infamous in ufology circles for how detailed the science presented behind their biology was. This post was even covered by AJ from the Y-Files in a 1-hour, 30-minute stream on his channel, The Y-Files Backstage.
The guy who posted it, whoever he was, or she, he reads like a man.
Now, this case will get its own video, as I have a lot to say on it, but for now, I only want to pick out the crucial details and compare them to this case. This alleged whistleblower on Reddit wrote, "The gray skin that is often described in folklore is in fact a biosynthetic film which, likely, serves to protect the EBO, or extra biospheric organism, from a hostile environment. It doesn't provide effective protection against temperature changes, but it does offer adequate protection against the passage of liquids. It's possible that this film confers other advantages, but my knowledge on the subject is limited. Under the gray film, the epidermis is rather white, and the texture is very regular and without any hair. So, from my perspective, it may be possible that this wrapping we see is the outer skin coming apart. In fact, a lot of the physical details of this corpse match this man's account. For instance, he also wrote, "The head contains 2 large, oversized eyes, 2 nostrils without protuberance, a narrow mouth without lips, and 2 ear canals without auricles. There is a mandible, but the musculature is vestigial. There are no teeth or tongue in the oral cavity." So what we see in the video is essentially an exact match. 2 large eyes, basically a flat nose, a very narrow lipless mouth, no ears, and a small jaw. This is what he wrote about the eyes. Like the skin, the eyes are covered with a semi-transparent biosynthetic film that offers the same environmental protection while providing protection against certain wavelengths and light intensity. When the film is removed, a more traditional eye is revealed. It's about 3 times larger than a human eye, and there are no eyelids. In other words, the black eyes of the gray are just very large human-like eyes with a dark film cover to them, no different than how you or I would wear sunglasses. Interestingly, this may be seen in the video where we see what appears to be the whites of eyes being visible. Then again, this also could be snow. So the eyes of the alien are, in other words, noticeably large, but not comically so, as shown in the media. Now, humans naturally form caricatures of things in their mind, using things that most define a person. So, for instance, if you met a person with a large nose and were asked to visualize them later, you may imagine it as being comically large. Same with the ears, eyes, etc. We see this in cartoons all the time, being that we exaggerate bodily proportions. So perhaps, is this also true of gray aliens and their black eyes? Lastly, I want to bring up another detail that is easy to overlook. In the photographs, it appears that the head is being articulated and moved around, which would open up many implications. A body, especially a naked one, would begin to freeze solid after death within 6 hours due to the exposure to a winter in Quebec, meaning either this body was very freshly dead, or that if this was a hoax, they made an articulated dummy for what would only be photographs, which would make no sense. Now, this uploader closes out their account stating that a book on this mystery is now in the works. It is unknown the progress, or lack thereof, on this, given that the last comment from this channel was 5 years ago. Now, here's an interesting detail. This 2008 video isn't on the channel, but I confirmed it existed on the Wayback Machine. A screenshot of the channel was also posted by a Reddit user, Problem Kunde, in 2022 in r/SkinnyBob, discussing the gray alien similarity to the alleged footage of a gray dubbed Skinny Bob. In the screenshot of the channel, the video is there. But if you use the link to get to it, you get greeted with this. This video is no longer available due to a copyright claim by AVI MOAS. Now, who is AVI MOAS? I don't know. I found only one copyright claim by them, and it was this video. I couldn't find a single thing about them. I wish I had more information to share with you, but that's where the trail ends. So, what is my perspective on this case? Well, there are so many unknowns here that it is almost impossible to verify anything. But then again, that's the world of ufology. You have to fundamentally read between the lines because there's no map to guide you. Perhaps this really is just a very well-made prop for a student movie. Or perhaps this really was a 1 in a million scenario, and people really did stumble upon a fresh alien corpse. However, the idea that people would leave a child-sized corpse alone overnight without contacting emergency services and going, whoops, is quite a bit odd. And the inclusion of the petroglyph by the uploader at the end would imply that he or she has a pre-existing interest in ufology, potentially prior to coming into contact with these photographs. Or, if they are a hoax, it was a motivation to inspire and create the photographs and video. On the other hand, it does bear a striking resemblance to another case that I find to be genuinely very legitimate. But, unfortunately, we can't stare at this case in a vacuum for 1,000 hours and deduce it to be a hoax or not. We're left to play detective here, and we have to interconnect what comes down to only maybes and find commonalities and consistencies between other cases, as UFO researchers do, as in fact any detective does. As new information comes out which we can compare it to, only then can we look back at it and affirm it as true or a work of fiction. Quite literally, only time will tell, and sometimes exploring the paranormal requires a bit of faith and shameless curiosity. I would like to end this video with this last passage from the uploader. As we know, there are far too many skeptics when it comes to unexplained phenomena, and they're often armed with prestigious degrees, making people more inclined to believe them and thus ridicule honest witnesses, just to feed their own egos and sleep better at night. In fact, as investigative journalist Christian Robert once said, in similar cases, the media far too easily accepts these so-called explanations of experts who often know nothing about the case but justify their involvement by citing their diplomas. Hey, this is Lately. Thank you for listening to my first video in the series exploring the paranormal. I have a sincere passion for the paranormal and wanted to use these videos to research topics that I find fascinating and then present what I find. There's more to come, so stay tuned.